Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee. It's the 14th of December. It's 9:38 in the morning. It was cold for us. It's 54 now. We were going to go down to 48 tonight, so we're going into the 40s. That's cold for us. High is 65 and sunny. So it's not going to be that bad. I'm gonna go into the chat and make sure we're functioning and put a couple of posts up while people are coming in. I'm gonna go. Okay, we got sound and picture. I'll be there in a minute. Just get my email address up in the chat. Be another few seconds. Okay, it seems that we got everything in order. I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So we'll start with a deep dive into what's going on with the drones. I absorbed all the information I could find on what's going on with the drones. All right. To start, it's now been 3 times reported that drones have crashed or come down or shot down or fell down or malfunctioned and fell down, whatever, right? They seem to all be false. These were all in the New Jersey area. I believe one turned out to be a car crash and the other 2 were unfounded. Possibly one of them was a small, cheap retail consumer drone or something. But they don't seem to have any basis in fact on this. So it's just people that are trying to stir things up. There's some posts on Twitter stating that people have been going to the emergency room for symptoms, illness, not feeling well, and seeing other people in the emergency rooms. And this seems to be not verified. It's just, I think, people just posting garbage because they got a deviated mentality or something, and it doesn't seem to have any, validity. Biden's remaining silent about it. Basically, they're still seen, and they've been seen in the Northeast area around New Jersey, where Trump has one of his numerous residences, and there's an airport there that he uses. Is Trump at that residence? Nobody knows, but I doubt it. I think he's probably at Mar-a-Lago, but I don't know where he is. But it could be more likely a coincidence. New York area is a very, very, it's like the heart of America that pumps the blood. You got New York Stock Exchange, New York Futures Exchange, a big Federal Reserve Bank there. You've got military bases like in Jersey, like Fort Dix. Now they saw one in Cape Cod. Possibly it's, if it was somebody trying to track Trump day after day, they would fly around Mar-a-Lago and other residences he has. They wouldn't be doing that, I don't think. So I don't think it's really related to Trump. It may be one point of this reconnaissance, which it more than likely is somebody conducting reconnaissance, okay? But they have been seen in California, and I know around Germany, Ramstein. Now, people are saying they were seen in Japan and Australia, and I have not really seen anything that's making me think that happened. So I wouldn't go chase that one, okay? Let's keep talking about this. So, people, now there was a Coast Guard vessel, a 47-foot, like a rescue boat, that said they were being followed by drones a few days ago. It was probably true. There was also people saying that the drones, they go dark. In other words, most likely they shut the lights off. So they probably have the lights on to prevent another flying aircraft from hitting them, helicopter, plane or something like that, okay? Military people that I believe would probably be retired or out of the military are talking that it's not that easy to pick up drones. It appears that they're not actually the size of an SUV. They're more likely the size of a very small car, like a little Fiat 500 or something. People are using 4 or 5 foot figures. They're not, it's very difficult to determine what the size of this thing is when they appear in the night, which is 5:30 to midnight. They always appear. They're consistent with that, apparently. And in the Northeast at this time of year at 5:30, it would be dark. So you're seeing lights, and they say they hear a humming noise. And that would make it electric, battery powered, more than likely. And people say they seem to have a 7-hour flight time. So it would be rather difficult just based on lights to determine how large the thing is, but we could run with the 4 or 5 foot theory, and that would take it out of the realm of drones that regular people go and buy. It wouldn't be that, okay? Also, people have been talking about dozens, up to 50 drones appearing at one time. How in the world could, some prankster who would have put probably millions and millions of dollars in buying these drones fly dozens of them at the same time? They'd need to have a room of operators. So that doesn't lend itself to this. They're saying the radar it's difficult to pick up objects like this on radar. It's probably true. And if they turn the filters, if they modify the filters on the radar, they may start picking up too many hits. Like they might start detecting a large bird or something. I don't know. These drones have not attacked anybody, and they appear to be doing reconnaissance surveillance in critical or strategic or important places like military bases, nuclear plants, things like this. Okay? I don't know what they were after in Cape Cod. Now, let's start chopping wood. Drones are also appearing in California, which is the West Coast, and they're also appearing in the Northeast. So, if it was some type of a ship in the Atlantic, there'd also have to be a ship in the Pacific to get to California. They're not flying drones across the United States with a 7-hour flight time, because it would take a drone more time than that. So they're not coming from the Atlantic. Do I think that Iran has a submarine that's capable of crossing the Atlantic Ocean? Mind you, the Iranians would have trouble. They'd have to go out of the Persian Gulf and hook around under Yemen, come up through the Red Sea, go into the Mediterranean, out the Mediterranean, and cross the Atlantic, and then submerge and launch, with antennas sticking up out of the water. So let's just guess like 40 feet under the water, which radar wouldn't pick them up. So they could surface, launch the drones, and then go down 40 feet and operate the drones from the antennas sticking up out of the water. It could be somebody could do this, but not Iran. I do not think at all that Iran has a submarine capable of taking a large journey through the Persian Gulf, out to the Sea of Oman, under Oman, passing by Oman, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, up the Red Sea, getting out the Red Sea into the Mediterranean, and then going into the Atlantic and crossing the Atlantic, and then being able to return home again? Iran? Nah, they don't have anything like that. No. So let's push Iran off to the side. Let's try to find out who does things like this. The two main suspects here would be China and Russia. Now, China uses what kind of a tactic on Taiwan? They repeatedly surround Taiwan with Chinese warships. The most was used some days ago, 19, with additional aircraft flying around to provoke Taiwan, scare Taiwan. And the scare here is the ships and the planes keep reappearing, and Taiwan doesn't know if at any time, if they drop their guard, these naval vessels and aircraft may just decide this is the moment and start attacking Taiwan. So they have to respond every time like it's real. This wears them down, gets them weary, and what happens with the soldiers, in spite of the efforts of the officers to prevent this, is they start thinking this is just like a dry run, a milk run, a drill. But it's not, but they start thinking that. After they've been through it, 16, 17 times, oh, here we go again, right? Okay. But they're under direction and pressure to respond as if it's a real attack. So it wears them down, and it gives China a tremendous advantage of surprise, because the Taiwanese are used to this occurrence. So now we're seeing a similar pattern, aren't we, with drones showing up all over America and even in Europe. We know Ramstein, Germany, where America has a huge base. Okay? Now, the Americans, well, people that are being interviewed, ex-military people in America, retired or they left, are saying that there's some sort of wavelength these things are operating on, probably the transmission wavelength for the radio signals, that they can't pick up. That's a little bit hard to imagine, but maybe. They're also saying that they've used all their electronic anti-drone defenses or countermeasures and they're not working, yet they have always been successful in the past. Well, Israel has countermeasures and we're not 100% successful with drones either. Pretty close. Usually, when a mistake is made in Israel and a drone gets through, it's because there was some kind of operator error or something like that. It's very rare that it ever gets through, but it has happened. So, I don't recall any instance where we picked it up and fired at it and it didn't go down, because we would send jets, helicopters, iron domes, all sorts of stuff. So, is this possible? Of course it's possible. Some country like China developed some wavelength that the American countermeasures can't detect. Could be. They should be able to modify and pick it up pretty soon. I don't know why they can't scan broad number of frequencies and look for signals going to the drone. This puzzles me. Maybe there's some sort of heavy encryption or jamming going on. I really don't know. Definitely Americans are being somewhat secretive about this. They're not being, full disclosure. That's for sure. So when you look at what detectives call MO, modus operandi, that the mode of their operating, it doesn't take us to China, it doesn't take us to Russia or Iran, it takes us to China, not North Korea. Okay? Especially when we start realizing these similar drones are popping up in California. Now, let's not jump the gun and begin assuming that these drones are coming off of a Navy vessel. First of all, people have said they've seen about 50 in the sky at a time, more than one person. Now, if you're talking with a 4 or 5 foot drone and putting them in a submarine, this is iffy. Why? Well, submarines have hatches. So you'd have to have minimally a 5-foot hatch. So the submarine would basically surface, which would expose it to detection and probably get picked up. Okay? Now, while they're on the surface, they have to get 50 drones of a substantial size moved from inside the submarine out a hatch onto the deck while they're in the water. So the way this would happen is the drones would have collapsible sections so it would fit through the hatch. This is doable. Or maybe you have to detach pieces of the drone and then reattach them on the deck. But it would be quite a length of time to get 50 of these up on a deck and then launched. And you would have to have a crew of people operating them. Maybe they could train an operator to handle 2 or 3 at a time. They'd have to have a room or a large space in the submarine with all this equipment to control the drones. Again, this is all doable, but it's not like they're going to come up to the surface for 5 minutes. Now, they come up to the 5 minutes, you got to wait a little bit of time for the water to drain off the top of the boat. Then you got to open up the hatch. Then you got to start putting the drone up. Then you got to get the drone. You got to have the guys come up first. Sure, they could be running a double time, triple time. They come up, then they receive the drone coming up through the hatch. Then they probably have, and now these things could be 7 or 8 feet, okay? Then they got to set the drone up in operating mode, reattach parts of the drone or uncollapse it, put it on the deck, turn it on, and then put it in launch mode, and you got to do that 50 times. I think you're there for a good hour and a half. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, maybe they got 3 submarines and each one only launches 15. Yeah, you're getting, maybe that could work, although I'm doubting it. Okay. The theory would be that the sub launches the drones and then they retrieve them. Now, that would be rather dangerous for them, but maybe they do it anyway. And that would mean they're going to be up on the deck for a long time while they're retrieving drones, while other drones are circling overhead. They get detected. Once they get detected, there's going to be submarine hunters, a wolf pack, probably of 4 or 5, big wolf pack, coming after them with destroyers, reconnaissance ships, aircrafts, that could drop things in the water, ships that could drop things in the water to monitor for submarines. And that submarine would be perpetually tracked. And, they'd risk losing the submarine. The submarine could just have an accident. Okay? Like an explosion. The attack submarines would probably not be detectable by Iran. And they get hit with, 2 or 3 1,000, 2,000 pound torpedoes while they're under the surface. And all of a sudden their communications just gets cut off and they're never heard from again. And then the drones, what happens to them? There's nobody to retrieve them. There's nobody to direct them back into the ocean. They would run out of battery life and fall down, and we'd have the drones. So the whole ship theory stinks. Okay? China doesn't have the world's greatest submarines either. I don't think it's that. I think it's your illegal migrants, aliens, whatever you want to call them in the United States, undocumented people. And China has almost 350,000 acres of land that they have in the names of shell corporations and stuff that are adjacent. Much of this land is adjacent to American military installations next door, or extremely close. And they've had this land for years, and they are doing agricultural work on there. They're growing food and sending it to China. So probably Obama let these goofs do it. I don't know, but I'm guessing that's where it comes back from. I don't think Trump let it go on. And Biden might be letting it go on as well. And how hard would it be for them to put a building up that looks like a barn, or maybe a grain storage facility, or a big shed to keep tractors and agricultural machinery? And what it really is a weapons manufacturing facility like we find in Lebanon and with Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon and other groups like Hezbollah in Syria and IRGC in Syria, etc., ad nauseum, and it's underground. So they could do that too. they could build it on there. But why bother? Just put up a building, you know, and do it in the building on private land. And 16,000 FBI agents, plus Homeland Security, plus the CIA, plus NIA, plus military intelligence, which is the Army, you know, plus naval intelligence, which is the Navy. They got Marine and Corps intelligence, but it's rather small. Coast Guard intelligence would be involved. These are special agents. These are guys that get a lot of training. You know, there's also Air Force intelligence, and you know, nobody knows about this. Plus Border and Customs, you know, ICE, you know, come on, and Homeland Security and ad nauseum, you know. So only, I guess, a maximum of 3%. It's probably 1 or 2% of the containers coming into America get searched. So there's probably a 97, 98% chance if you send a container into America mislabeled, like you could say they're desk lamps from China, or you could say they're, oh, anything, you know, irons, microwave ovens, parts for that, refrigerator, whatever, right? And then they assemble them. And in the same container, they don't have all the parts, so the parts are sent perhaps in 20 or 30 different containers. And they go to front companies, and then the parts are taken out. They probably have real shipments mixed in. A custom inspector would most unlikely not know how to interpret machine parts. You know, he'd look at the manifest, and if it makes sense, that's it. You know, but he's not going to understand what they are, and then they assemble. Now that explains why they're hitting the west and the east coast. Of course, we could counter that and say China has submarines on the east and west coast, and they're doing it. It is a possibility it could be done with a surface vessel that doesn't submerge, but it can't be that far away. If it goes 500 miles away, I mean, a drone might go, what, 60, 80, let's say it goes 100 miles an hour, which is pretty fast for a drone. It's 5 hours to hit the coast. So if they're going to go 25 miles off the coast, come on, they're going to get noticed. So then we go back to the submarines. So yeah, they could, China might have submarines that are efficient enough to do that, and they might have developed some drones that are rather effective with a 7-hour battery life, if that's really the fact. I don't know how they came up with 7 hours. It may not be the fact. It could be. You know, it sounds rather odd that they can't figure out where they're going. It doesn't make sense. They know where they are. They get reports, and they can put helicopters out there to follow them. But then we're told the drones go dark, and the helicopters can't pick up their signal on the radar, which sounds not true. And because we pick up drones all the time, so that doesn't sound true. And this go dark drone thing, yeah, I mean, it's going to go dark with the lights. They shut the lights off for sure. So you're not going to be able to track it with visual very easily because they fly at night. Got it? So the fact that they're flying only at night in the dark makes us think that they're not, you know, getting lost off the radar. Okay? More than likely it's coming from these illegal military aid, sleeper agents that may not be on Chinese land. They could be just living in, I don't know where, some other, undercover person for the country that's doing this could have purchased land someplace, right? Farmland, cattle land, who knows what, right? And these, a big spread of 200-300 acres is, or even 80 or 100 acres is going to have outbuildings, and they assemble them. They get machine shops, they get power tools, they get, whatever they need, and it won't draw suspicion, and they just do their assembly. And then how do they launch them? Well, the drones would then be stored in a facility someplace on the property or wherever they are. You can't operate this in an apartment house. You could send, a small drone out through a window at night maybe, but you're not going to send a large drone out of a window. How's it going to get out the window, You could put them on trucks and drive to the middle of nowhere and launch them off of trucks. That's a possibility. But who operates with this approach? China. China's the one that keeps sending things to Taiwan to scare them and break them down. And that's what seems to be going on with the drones. They've definitely scared America. And Biden is ignoring it. Now, Biden is talking about getting a legislative bill pushed through before he leaves that would give amnesty to, you're hearing various figures. You're hearing 11.5 million illegals that entered the country illegally. Other people are saying it's closer to 14 million. And Trump said he used the high figure of these illegal migrant aliens, that whatever you want to call them, that entered the country illegally, at 30 million, and other people from Border Patrol have said it's as high as 50 million. 60 to 70% of military age males. Now, they don't want to talk about this. The church, well, the people on the social media networks, there's Twitter, TikTok, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, millions of these things, right? They don't talk, the ones that say, oh, we're going to Gog and Magog war, buy your survival food now. They never talk about America being the daughter of Babylon. And they never talk about the sleeper agents. So the people that listen to them, which is huge, don't discuss the sleeper agents. Now, there's militias all over America. Years ago, there was supposedly 6 million people in militias. There's probably twice that by now or something. We haven't heard any reports of them flying over their locations for some reason. They may consider them just unimportant noise because they don't have any heavy weapons. They just got pistols and rifles, and they're not very interested in them. They consider it a waste of time. They present no threat to the homeland of the country that's doing this kind of work, so they don't pay much attention to that. Okay. People have talked about drones every night appearing over their house. Well, why would that be? If the person was someone special, highly placed intelligence operative in the American government or something like that, they'd never come out with a public disclosure like that. These are people that want attention. Or they might be fearful and I don't know what. Or they may live near a strategic target. Like, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks away or something like that. That's all possible. So, again, there's no reason to surveillance John Doe and Jane Doe every night. What for? And if there was a reason for them to be surveillanced, they would never disclose it on the news and say, "Oh, I get them every night." That's doesn't make sense. So, China is your likely suspect, and the drones being launched from land inside America makes more sense than any other theory. But again, these people on the internet won't talk about it. A lot of them live in America, almost all of them. And they don't want to recognize that they're the daughter of Babylon. They want to recognize they're under threat from other countries, and America has great weapons and military to destroy these other countries. That's their mindset. But they do have fear of the other countries. So basically, they rely on man, their own military and intelligence operations in that country that they're in, and they fear man, the other armies. They don't fear God, and they don't trust in God. So they're buying survival food and buying guns and bullets and stuff. And this is, you see them gravitate to this in a big way. Is this probably really a very serious threat to the United States? Yes. It's a threat to the United States to cut it out. Now, they may have transmitted to the United States what they don't want them to do, and the United States won't tell you, or they may not have. And they're trying to stir the pot in America to create confusion and fear and people not trusting and relying on their government. Now, Biden with this amnesty thing, what's going on? It's going to give these illegals a legal status. They could work in America, buy a gun in America, I expect, and open a bank account, blah, blah, blah. Get driver's licenses, whatever. Now along comes Trump to deport them. So what Trump has to do is create new legislation to override what Biden did by granting him amnesty. And that's a very controversial piece of legislation that he may or may not get passed. He does have a Republican House and Senate, but that doesn't mean they're all going to go for something like this. When a new president starts undoing what the previous president did in terms of legislation, that breaks the standard operating procedure of the American politicians. But Trump would likely do that. So how long would that take Trump to accomplish? Well, a week or two if he has no resistance, which I'm sure he will. So it may take 2 or 3 months. Then comes appeals. The civil liberty type lawyers are going to appeal the law and challenge the deportation as an unconstitutional act that Trump did and drag it out. So what Biden is doing is making it more and more difficult for Trump to deport these so-called illegal migrants. There has to be some legal precedent. And with amnesty, they're going to stay. So Trump has to override it with another piece of legislation. If Biden actually gets this passed. And that drags things out much longer for Trump. So Biden, with his open border policy, it could be argued, is trying to destroy the United States. I mean, what do you think it is? Do you think he's helping the United States? Think it's a good thing? So old Biden is trying to destroy the United States. Now, take the same theory and apply it to the drones, and do you have a match? I'd say you do. Fear is abounding and growing, and no information is coming from America. America is acting like they're unable to do anything about it, which may not be true, to enhance the fear. Let me take you someplace in Jeremiah 50:51. I got to look it up though, so it'll take me a moment. I've got to get more specific. Still looking for this thing. Yeah, I'm not finding it out. I know what it says, but I want to find the exact verse for you. So give me a minute here. Jeremiah 50:51. It's in one of those two chapters. They're quite large. I don't want to go through the whole thing. Maybe it's Jeremiah 51 around 43. Let me look. Her cities are a desolation, a dry land, and a wilderness, a land wherein is no man, where no man dwelleth, neither any son of man therein. Well, it talks about the leader of the daughter of Babylon, America, gives his hand when they're surrounded around Washington, D.C., I assume. Officer gives his hand. They give your hand is a surrender in the Bible speak, the old Bible language. So, can you imagine Joe Biden in the White House? So, this is before January 20th. surrendering to these people that he opened the border to. Surrendering America to these people. Sure, can you imagine Trump doing it? It'd be harder to imagine that, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you think? Not impossible at all, but harder. So it could be that the destruction of the daughter of Babylon is sooner than we think. Which also means, he could get whisked away, but I doubt it. He'll get stabbed in the back by them. So, it could be Biden. Could, not has to, could. So you have all this going on, and you don't listen to what Biden says. You look at his actions. You look at the illegal aliens, and then you look at the amnesty proposal, and you see him giving all this money to Ukraine so they can continue the war probably for another year or at least 6 months and thwart Trump and his ceasefire plans for Ukraine. So, as a very minimum, Biden administration is trying to make life extremely difficult for Trump when he takes office. By then, I think Biden figures he'll have America in war with Europe and NATO and Russia and Ukraine thing blown up, and war in the Middle East, minimally, if not Asia Pacific as well. And then Trump gets to inherit it. But before Trump gets to inherit it, it may be over. So, like I've told you all along, Trump may never, ever actually be the next president. There may not be a next president. Now, it could be that Trump gets into office. I don't know. I can't guarantee that he won't. But whoever it is does surrender. And that's not a surrender for themselves, it's surrendering the country. Now, can these drones be aliens from another planet, another life form? No. There's nothing like this in the Bible. I mean, for people that don't believe the Bible, oh yeah, they'll go for this. But if you have the, if you're the elect and you know the Bible, you're not going to believe this. It's ridiculous. There's nothing in there about this. There's no life in the firmament or beyond the firmament. It doesn't exist. We're never told about it. Are these things angels? No, they're not angels. What would be the purpose of it? What's the point? If God doesn't want you to know angels are around, you just can't see them. That's it. And if he wanted you to know that there were angels around, there would be some meaning to it that people would be able to pick on. And this is not the situation. So you could forget angels. I mean, you could forget aliens unless you want to ignore the Bible. Okay, let me take a look at what's going on in my chat here. It's probably have some garbage to throw out. And I do answer questions if there are any. Kingston, New York, yes, and they're being seen in Cape Cod. I didn't know about Kingston, but I'll take your word on it. Russia has stealth submarines. Yes, Russia has advanced submarines, but this thing doesn't really lend itself to the modus operandi of Russia. Russia doesn't operate this way. China does in Taiwan. So I would lean to China more. North Korea, they don't operate this way, and I highly doubt this is them. They're not that advanced with navies and stuff. we would have to believe that if people could see the drones, people can shoot them down. So could soldiers. So we gotta start thinking something's not right about this. I'm still going through the chat. I will answer questions, by the way. Someone said it's Isaac. Well, my email address is up there. If it's the Isaac I'm thinking of and you know who that is, let me know by email. There is a threat to bringing them down. Israel tries to bring the drones down over unoccupied area. It doesn't always work. And shrapnel occurs, and then people get hit with shrapnel. So, but the U.S. is extremely capable of bringing them down over open land. So, people are getting worried, that's for sure. Yeah, the drones have lights that they turn off, yes. Yeah, they use drones for smuggling, but the drones they'll use in a prison is a small drone. This is a big honking drone. Drones, these are good sized drones. Buying something like this would be hundreds of thousands of dollars, if maybe more, depending on how it's equipped. We don't know if these drones are weaponized. Can we assume they can be weaponized? Sure. A drone that size could easily carry a 20, 25 pound explosive, which, just to give you a perspective, something like that would, if you hit a concrete or brick house, it would blow up probably 2 or 3 rooms in the house. If it was 40, 50 pounds, it would probably get most, if not all, of the house, depending on the size of the house. I'm talking a 2,000, 2,500 square foot house. In Israel, these smaller explosive weapons generally blow a room or so out of the house. But our houses are concrete floor, concrete ceilings with hard tile on the floor, and concrete walls, either concrete block or poured concrete. American houses aren't that sturdy, so the damage could be greater. But, they could maybe make something like this with a 40, 50 pound warhead, which would be very, very dangerous. That would trash most of a house, but you're not going to take out an army base with a 40, 50 pound explosive. You'd need, 500 pound bombs and a lot of them. But if you had dozens of drones and you were driving them into strategic buildings, you could cause secondary explosions from weapons, fires, personnel problems, chaos, fear. But more than likely, these are designed for reconnaissance, and that's what they're doing. So why do they do it every day? Well, they want to see the reactions of the military on the bases. The drones appear, then they go back the next day to see what their countermeasures were, and then the next day, and the next day. And they may not be detecting any countermeasures, that's why they keep going back. They're trying to figure out what's going on. But there's no argument for 30 to 50 million illegal migrants coming into America helping America in any way. There's no argument for that. So it's a destructive force on America. So that's consistent with drones spying on strategic installations, military and nuclear facilities and other things. The aliens, come on, why would God not reveal aliens to us? There's no aliens, you know. Nowhere in the Bible is it. And when you study the firmament, there's no room for it. It's just, they're not there. How's a Martian or a Plutonian or a Jupiterian or whatever you'd call somebody from Jupiter or a Neptunian gonna come through the firmament? All the water would come in. Yeah, it's ridiculous. How do you get it? It's nonsense. So don't go off on the aliens. Somebody's doing it, and I'm not thinking it's Iran. Iran is in an extremely weakened position right now. They're highly vulnerable. Okay. Picture yourself walking through a neighborhood full of dangerous people, and you don't have a gun or a knife or anything, and you're walking through the neighborhood, and 11 or 12 guys start following you with guns. What are you going to do? That's where Iran is today. The king has no clothes. They got no way to deter an Israeli attack, let alone an American attack. So it's not Iran doing this. They don't have the technology. They don't have the guts to do it. Iran is a big mouth, psychopathic country. Okay, that's it. And they use their proxies, which are throwaway items to them. Hamas is not functional. Neither is Hezbollah. Neither are their militias and IRGC and other things in Syria. They're not functional. Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen can't do anything to Israel. Yes, they could do a lot of damage to Saudi Arabia, but it hasn't happened. Saudi for months has been selling the oil and the natural gas, I assume, without accepting euros or US dollars for payments. So Saudi is helping the axis of evil, as they call it. They're all evil, but which is predominantly North Korea, China, Iran, Russia. Then you would have Belarus, and you would have Venezuela and Cuba and a few others. Okay. The UAE is in BRICS now and not accepting dollars or euros for oil and natural gas. And Iran can because of sanctions, the same with Russia. So they want this to expand. They want this to go to Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, Jordan, and start really crippling the US dollar and see if America's dumb enough to sit still for it while their economy gets destroyed. Well, Biden is dumb enough to sit for it, but Trump isn't. So Biden is fueling up Ukraine to keep fighting so they don't bend down to Trump's ceasefire. Now, Trump's latest ceasefire idea is 40,000 NATO troops in Ukraine, probably to freeze the line between Russia and Ukraine. So Russia gets to keep the parts of Ukraine it did, and Ukraine keeps itself alive with the parts of Ukraine they still have. And then there's a ceasefire. Well, it might work. I don't know. Putin is another psychopathic lunatic, a dictator, and he is, look, if he goes to war against NATO and he wins, Russia would experience what? $3 or $4 trillion of damage? Seriously. Well, how long would that take Russia to rebuild? Their oil refineries would go. Their oil pipelines would go. Their natural gas and those pipelines would go. Their airports would go. Their radar would go. A lot of their planes would go. A lot of their military bases would go. A lot of their military weapons would go. A lot of their cities would be gravely damaged. Targeted assassinations, possibly. You know, Russia would be okay. Russia won. They were the last man standing, but they're standing on one leg holding themselves up with crutches with bandages on their heads, and their arm in a sling, and, Russia would be in a very weakened condition if it survived that. How many of Putin's dashas or mansions would be destroyed? It's Putin's afraid of this. But America keeps painting him into a corner, and Biden would possibly try to ignite Russia and NATO before January 20th, because it's a safe assumption that if things are the way they are today on January 21st, Trump's going to call Putin up on the phone. He's going to say, listen, let's freeze things right here. Let's meet. Let's sit down. We'll get a hotel someplace in Switzerland or somewhere, and we'll grind it out. Okay? We'll fix this. Vlad, trust me, it's fixable. I don't care about Ukraine. They're all corrupt over there. They're stealing money like crazy. I don't want to waste time and money on this. You don't. Let's just sit down and make a deal. And Putin will say, okay, Donald, well, where do you want to meet? What do you think Putin's going to say? Because Donald knows he has to allow Putin to save face. So he'll cut a deal for Putin that Putin would probably take, or what's the point? So Biden's deadline is before January 20th, I would assume. Now, the next big question is, what's he going to do with Taiwan and North and South Korea, which would also affect Japan, Guam, and the Philippines. North Korea and China against them. I don't know what he's going to do. Right now, he's not pushing that one. That doesn't mean they're not working behind the scenes, but he's not pushing it. If the drones are reconnaissance drones from China, it means they're studying military targets for some reason. And that reason is, it has to do with attacking America. But all of these characters that are running around selling you survival food, saying they're Christians, talking about Ezekiel 38 for now. Yeah, Ezekiel 38. Israel's living in peace and safety without bars and walls, with great riches, cattle, silver, and gold. That's so far from Israel. 28% of the people were living at the poverty line before October 7th. It's probably 45% now. Yeah, there's a bunch of millionaires running around in Israel, but that's it. Satan bots. Come on, guys, wake up. People in Israel carry debt, most of them. It's a very, very hard country to live in. And Netanyahu, of course, has made it worse than any other leader of Israel. He cuts immigration to Israel down tremendously. He's probably got it down by 95%, from where it was at its highest, with 1 million in 1 year from Russia. So the guy is anti-Aliyah, completely opposed to it. So something's wrong with these drones, and there's a theory that America's doing it to put fear into people. I don't think so. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm going to take a fast break and come right back. I just don't see America doing something stupid like that. It has no real end purpose. Just to go out and create fear, makes not a lot of sense. think it was yesterday I showed you something, and I want to show it to you again because some of you people maybe didn't see it. And I want to show you that the White House and the Supreme Court and the New York Stock Exchange are Masonic temples. And I'm going to show it to you, and you're going to believe that they're Masonic temples in a couple of moments when I show you the pictures. Okay, I'm not going to have to convince you. So we'll start with famous Masonic temples. Now, you know, when you look at a Masonic meeting hall in a city of 20,000 people, it's not going to look like they're big temples, but let's get their big temples. This is one of their big famous temples. Notice the pillars and that triangular thing over the pillars, which is called the Tiffium. Okay? Take a hard look. All right, let's find a couple other Masonic temples to look at. Now, the picture of this one, it's the same one. It has this other structure on the top, okay? I just want to point that out to you. And let's find another one. Here's another Masonic temple with the Tiffium and the pillars and everything, right? It doesn't have that structure on the top of it. It's a different one. Now, mind you, I'm just showing you their grandiose ones, their most important Masonic temples, not, you know, the temple in Topeka, Kansas or something like that that they meet in may not be important to them, and this could be different. Okay? Now, let's take a look at the White House. If you think this is going to be shocking, you're entirely correct. Let's go to images. Let's shrink this a little bit if I can. No, I'm not looking. Let's try. Get a good picture of it. That's not the White House. What is this? No. I'll find a good picture. I got to get one that I can manipulate in Google and make it big enough. This, I believe, is the older White House. Looks just like a Masonic temple, doesn't it? Come on, it's dead on. Now let's try to find a more modern White House, which, let me change my search a little bit. This appears to be the more modern White House. They modified it a little bit. Probably they were getting accused of running a Masonic temple of some sort, you know. Now, let's take a look at the U.S. Supreme Court. There's your U.S. Supreme Court. The pillars, the Tiffium, the whole bit. It's a Masonic temple. And it's got, if you look at the Tiffium, it's got graven images up there of false gods and stuff like that. Who the heck knows who those are? Who cares? Let's take a look at the New York Stock Exchange. Now, I'm not sitting here doing this because I hate America and I want you guys to be, you know, bummed out and stuff like that. I'm doing it because I'm trying to teach you that America truly is the daughter of Babylon. This is the New York Stock Exchange. I worked there once in a summer job as a page or runner on the floor. It's a Masonic temple. What the heck do you think it is? Let me show you another statue, and I want you to think about Epstein Island. That's a crappy picture. Let me get a good picture. I don't know, for some reason the resolution of these pictures doesn't come out so great all the time. Could be the iPad, I don't know what it is, but could be the uploaded pictures, not so good. Well, we'll go with this one. This is a statue in Washington, D.C., the Boy Scouts of America, and I want you to think about Epstein Island, okay? Now, here we have a flat-chested woman, if it is a woman, not a particularly beautiful woman, a little boy with his Boy Scout uniform on, and apparently the father, buck naked, walking around with the wife clothed and the boy clothed, and he's buck naked. Now, does this bring Epstein Island to mind? See, am I making this stuff up? No. Let me show you what goes on at the Library of Congress building. In front of the building, they have some elaborate fountains to make the building look beautiful. However, let's examine the statues, the graven images that represent false gods in this fountain in front of the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress is a very important, famous landmark building of the United States government in Washington, D.C. The resolution of these pictures is not idyllic, but we'll get you the idea. I can't determine what that is. Let's try this. Here it is. This is hard to see, but it's right in front of the Library of Congress. It's a statue of Neptune, a mythological phony god of the sea or the ocean. Neptune, in front of the Library of Congress of America. And Jeremiah 50:51 says they're mad on their idols. Well, do I have to take it any further? I'll show you some other shots of this. It's hard to see, but this is Neptune and his little entourage of other demons. What else? I believe Neptune's buck naked. I don't want to show you buck naked Neptune, but here's, you can see this Neptune idiot. I mean, if I go to Disney World, I expect to see things like this because it's such a demonic place, right? But, you know, you're seeing this in Washington, D.C. I could sit here for 8 hours and show you stuff. I could go back to old American currency. I've done this and show you the demonic images on the currency. I could go back to old American company stock certificates and show you the demonic images there. Old American coins and stamps, not so much the stamps, the coins have demonic images. Let's look at the Statue of Liberty. I gotta get a good image. Got one. Not the best resolution, but here's the Statue of Liberty, a flat-chested so-called woman holding the torch. Come to the light with the pillars. It's a Masonic temple. It's a Masonic temple. Now, who is this jackass Statue of Liberty character? I'll show you. Let's try to find a good image. Rather challenging to find a good image, but we get there. I want one showing that's no good. Come on, back up. It's almost as if they were removing the images. I used to teach the demonic images on money, and they removed them out of Google Images. I think, oh boy, they've cut these down. But let's see if we can find it. They've changed this a little bit, but she's standing on a pedestal like the Statue of Liberty, but they're blocking these pictures showing that out. You see, it's a flat-chested so-called woman holding the light, come to the light. But what is the name of this? Columbia. See, they put her name right on there. Yeah, there's a motion picture named after, the company named after. It's Columbia. They're telling you this is Columbia. What is the capital of the United States called? Columbia. District of Columbia. It's a district. Is the Washington, D.C. the District of Columbia in any of the 50 states? No. It's not. It's its own thing run by the federal government. Now, where do we see this disgusting thing pop up in prophecy? I'll read it to you. Revelation 17. Now, Revelation 17 starts off, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Waters are different peoples, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, spiritual fornication. And, well, then we got to cover Epstein's Island, but I think it's physical. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. He carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. That's the beast that comes out of the pit. The church erroneously refers to that as the Antichrist. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Well, this is an allegorical representation, like we're referred to as wheat, or Yeshua is referred to as the lamb, or the Lion of Judah. It's not a literalization. Okay, so that's who the woman is, and she rides on the beast, so she dominates the beast, okay? And the woman, which, it's the last verse, Revelation 17:18. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. See, there's 50 states and 50 pentagram, demonic idol, on the American flag. But this is the city that reigns over the kings of the earth. Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, their jackass created goddess. Mad upon her idols. That's America. I just showed it to you. Just to pound it a little deeper, let me show you what a Roman demonic temple and a Greek demonic temple look like, okay? Because they look like the government buildings in the United States that I just showed you. This won't take but a minute. Now, state capitol buildings are this way, city buildings are this way in America. We could sit here for hours and do this. You could do it yourself. Just go to Google Images or Yahoo Images or wherever you want to go. Here's a Roman temple. Gee, it looks like a Masonic temple, a White House, a Supreme Court, New York Stock Exchange. How about that? Do I have to convince you of that? No. Let's look at a Greek temple. Here's a Greek temple. Do I have to convince you again? No. He said the Greeks and the Romans worshipped false, phony gods. The same schmuck gods America leaders worship. Now, I'm not telling you this because I want to put America down. I'm telling you this because if you're a true believer, you better get ready to leave. Because people are going to be leaving the United States. It's going to be destroyed soon. Not years, not a year, weeks, possibly very few short months, I would guess. It's going to go. And this drone thing is highly consistent with that. It gets invaded, but America's already been invaded. 30 to 50 million illegals. 60 to 70% are sleeper agents, military-age males coming in by themselves. China having 350,000 acres of land near American military bases. And did you read about the FBI and Homeland Security raiding them and finding weapons and other things there? Nope. Why? You tell me. I'll back in a second. I gotta do something. I'll be right in. So you need to ask yourself if you care about getting to heaven and things like that and serving the Lord, Father God, Jehovah, and Yeshua HaMashiach, why your pastor doesn't teach you the stuff that I just did. It's obviously not open for much debate. Why didn't they teach it to you? It's obvious, isn't it? Isn't it obvious? What I teach is a great way to get people to leave your channel and not subscribe and not come back. And that's fine, because they go out from among you because they're not of you. And they don't give offerings. Okay? You know, the Bible says, you know, well, I think it was Yeshua said it, freely you have received and freely you shall give. You can't sell things. I can't sell survival equipment or anything like that. You know. Look, you don't need survival food. Go buy canned food. Tuna, salmon, sardines. You'll get oil in there or water, which is great for survival. But I mean, you know, survival food to me is if there's a hurricane or a blizzard coming, you get a few days worth of food. You know, don't buy their dehydrated powder crap. You think that you're going to get much value out of that? And it's expensive. What do you want to buy that junk for? I mean, what are you talking about? You can get vegetables in cans with the water, and the vegetables are leaching the minerals into the water for months, and then drink the water. The canned fish. You can buy soups, Campbell's and other soups. Maybe you want to get the organic, you know. And they got, you know, pasta in there for carbohydrates, and they got meat in there. Not the greatest meat, but they got meat in there. But you can eat the fish, the sardines, the tuna, the salmon. Buy all metal cans. It'll last you probably as long as the survival food. Get fruits and, you know, you don't need their crap. It's you think it's good to buy dehydrated food? Did your mother raise you on dehydrated food? I mean, what do you want this for? That's what they're making money off. They're scaring you. Oh, nuclear war. You know, if they had nukes, don't you think they would have used them by now? Don't you think so? You think they're such righteous, moral people that they would be afraid to use them? These are complete lunatics. If Pakistan had nukes, you don't think they'd give them to Iran or these other crazy countries? What are you talking about? Why do you think this way? Why do you believe them? You got to look when you're dealing with governments. The heads of governments in every country are profound liars, or they wouldn't be in office. Satan's the god of this age. It doesn't say world, it says age. The age's not over yet. The next age comes with everlasting life, but which is when Yeshua appears in the clouds, but your church doesn't teach you that. You can go through my YouTube videos. I can't do Bible studies on everything. We'll be here for days. But you go to the live section in my YouTube and you have them. Let me take a look into the live stream and see what we got. If I have questions. People in America should be worried about the drones, and they should be double worried that Biden's not doing anything about it. Do I think America's, yeah, America's on war with the enemies. America and BRICS, this is a BRICS war. BRICS is trying to destroy America. There's 27 members of BRICS, there's going to be more coming in, and they're trying to trade oil, natural gas, food, other things, all without the US dollar, to drop the value of the US dollar and break the US, plus the euro, break Europe, which is NATO. That's what they're trying to do in America. Biden is doing what about it? Nothing. Trump will do something about it. So Biden is trying to give Trump a massive amount of trouble to inherit. But the sleeper agents are already in America. And who would be controlling them? Well, to some extent, we know Venezuelan gangs. So Venezuela, probably North Korea, China, Russia, Iran, other Muslim states probably. Hezbollah, Hamas, and them are probably there. ISIS is probably there. Al-Qaeda is probably there. You got millions and millions of them. It seems nobody is recognizing BRICS anymore. Well, I don't think so. I think you're very wrong. Yeah, Europe is similar. Yeah, Colombia is obviously some demonic guide or goddess or something. I don't know. It's phony, but they believe it. You're supposed to keep your eyes on things above, I agree, but we're also supposed to watch. That's what I'm doing, the watching. So Israel's still bombing Syria, weapons that were left by the Syrian army, and we're still bombing facilities from the Syrian army over there. The rebels in Syria are still conducting chaos in the country, killing people and hurting people around, and it's just a matter of days, and the genocide is going to really enhance over there. A major move was 6 Druze villages, which is a decent swath of land in Syria near Israel by the Golan Heights, said they want Israel to annex them, so they could be safe from the next regime. It's such a mess over there, okay? It's so screwed up. People are fighting, people groups fighting people groups. There's only 70,000 of these terrorists, but they picked up a bunch of ISIS. ISIS was in Syrian jails and they let them out. And the rebels running Syria are running around wearing ISIS patches. They're Al-Qaeda and ISIS with a new paint job. That's all they are. But they're not even, forget the new paint job. They're putting the old patches, the old paint job, the ISIS patch, on their new paint job. They're head choppers, torturers, murderers, rapists, sickos, psychopaths. And they're going to create a reign of terror on the different Muslim sects, the Alawites and the Shiites and Sunnis that don't believe like them. That'd be like the Baptists fighting the Lutherans with weapons in the United States, something like that, right? And, they're going to go after, former Bashar Assad people. They're already doing it. They're hanging them in the streets publicly, machine gunning Syrian soldiers in the hospital while they're laying in bed. I mean, these are some sick turkeys, okay? And they're continuing. They're real sickos. They're not stopping. They're going to get worse. So their usefulness is about run out. Assad's gone. Syrian army's disbanded. They don't have the personnel to maintain. Turkey's occupying a buffer zone there. Israel got a buffer zone which we'll probably never get back, and America and the UK are keeping their military bases in northeast Syria to protect the oil which the American oil companies are profiting from. And we are very close to Damascus, about 9 miles away with our tanks. And it's a mystery to me what's going on. The rebels have not gone into Damascus in any kind of big force, but they're probably planning on it, and our tanks might be there to stop them or to stop them from approaching Israel. I don't know yet. But we're still, 2 days ago, I think we had eliminated 86% of Bashar Assad's Syrian army. Facilities, jets, planes, boats, equipment, everything. And we're still knocking more stuff off. And America's been bombing there too. But both America and Israel have reduced the amount of bombing. Israel's greatly reduced it because they got most of the targets. They're probably going to keep pushing it and try to get 95% or so of the military leftovers from Bashar Assad destroyed. I don't believe they could get 100%. Perhaps 90,000 people have flocked into Lebanon illegally, mostly from Syria. The rebels have no heavy weapons. They just got light weapons. They can't do anything to Israel. They can't win against Israel. They can't onslaught against Israel. I don't know who the heck they can onslaught against. The next target for them is likely going to be Iraq. And we got to wait for that. I don't think they're going to attack Iraq in the next day or two. They want to solidify their hold on Israel. Well, Turkey's not going to let them get into the zone they have, the buffer zone to keep the Kurds away from Turkey. America's not going to let them get in the area of the northeast Syria where the oil is, because they got that. And Israel's not going to let them come in anywhere near Israel. So we've got a big buffer zone. So, what's left would probably be divided up amongst the different tribes and religious beliefs and stuff like that. Oh, you're this kind of Sunni, you live here. You're that kind of Sunni, you live there, and with the Shiites and all that, They don't have much use for people that are not Muslims in Syria, these rebels. They don't have any use for them. It's just being an infidel. And they don't have much use for people that are Muslims that don't believe like they believe. So you're going to see a bloodbath of probably at least 100,000 people. It could be triple that or something, or more. You're going to see it. Because these people, that's what they're about. And right now they're running around getting their buddies out of the prison, the ISIS. And, they're basically liberating the whole prisons. They're letting them all out. But a lot of these people hated Assad, and they'll join the rebels. So they're going to pick up a few thousand. But they can't hold up against Israel. There's no chance of it. It also makes it more difficult for Iran to try to come back in and reconquer Syria. Russia is still continuing to evacuate military equipment and personnel out of Israel. So it's hard for me to believe about Putin making a deal with the rebels to keep his Navy and Air Base. Maybe he made a deal to keep his Navy and Air Base until he could evacuate personnel and equipment. But this is a mystery thing right now to me, and I don't quite understand how it can be this way, where he can keep his bases, yet he's pulling his equipment off the bases. So how's he going to defend his bases? It doesn't add up. Somebody's giving bad news, or things changed with Putin and the rebels. I don't know what's up. I don't think any of us really do. We'll have to wait, because it's an inconsistency. You can keep your air base, you can keep your Navy base, but why is he still evacuating all the equipment? War equipment. Something's wrong. So we're just going to have to wait and see how that materializes. I don't know yet. Is Israel going to conquer Damascus? It's talked about in Israel. There's a food in Israel called hummus. It's like a paste. Very, very popular in Israel. And they're talking like they're saying, are we going to be eating hummus in Damascus soon? Well, we know Damascus is going to be a ruinous heap, but could there be a period of time where we would be running around in Damascus beforehand? I would say most unlikely. It could happen, but I'm not looking for that. Doubt it. There are some prayer requests. The first one is for R.C. Robert Charlie. R.C. Robert Charlie. R.C. Healing for stomach. And the prayer also says that the tests for the stomach come back good. So for R.C. Robert Charlie, healing for the stomach, and that the medical tests come back good. Okay, somebody named Travis has appendicitis. Pray for healing, good operation, and a good quick recovery for someone named Travis with appendicitis. Okay, those are the prayer requests for today. So if I were you in America and Europe and other places, I would be very, very, very concerned over this drone incident here. I don't think it's something that is meaningless. I think it has deep-seated meaning towards the attack on America. Somebody's collecting reconnaissance. Trump's coming in January 20th. I would think it's in the best interest of China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia to attack America before Trump comes in. That's my opinion. And I think you'll see it come to light. There's other things we could study: the year of recompenses and the day of vengeance, the year of redemption, which also includes the day of vengeance. You could read Isaiah 34, verse 8. The year of recompenses is over the controversy of Zion. You could read Isaiah 63, I think it is. The first few verses about year of redemption, day of vengeance. Read Jeremiah 30, verse 11, where it's associated with the reestablishment of Israel with all the land. And it says that God will destroy all the nations he dispersed the Israelites into, which is about 125 nations. It's also found in Jeremiah 46, verse 28. Very, very similar passages. Almost the same exact, but not quite. So this is all going to happen, and your pastors aren't teaching you this stuff. They're not teaching Day of Vengeance. They're not teaching Year of Recompenses. They're not teaching Year of Redemption. They're not teaching that the Day of Vengeance is both in the Year of Recompenses and the Year of Redemption, so there's some sort of an overlap, probably the last day. They're not teaching on this, this day, that there's going to be the appearing in the clouds of the Son of Man seated on the right hand of God the Father. They're not teaching you that, okay? Matthew 24, verse 30, they don't teach you that. They don't teach you that every eye shall see him in Revelation 1:7. They don't teach you that if you're a believer and you see him, you'll have everlasting life, which is not a spiritual body. It doesn't mean you can't die. The can't die doesn't happen until you're in New Jerusalem and you eat the tree of life and drink the water of life. But the everlasting life happens after this age is over, and you'll be like before the flood, where people live 1,000, or better be more. You get a double portion in many years. Like people were living over 900 years before the flood, So you live like that, more so probably. But you just got to make it into New Jerusalem. So they don't teach this stuff, They don't teach that in Zechariah 12:10. The people see the one whom they have pierced, and they have the Holy Spirit poured out on them before the house of David and those in Jerusalem. They don't teach you that. They don't teach you that John 6:40 says that if you're a believer and you see him, you will have everlasting life. They don't teach that either. In 1 John 3:2 it says, when you see him, you will be like him because you see him like he is. They don't teach that. They don't teach you nothing. Okay? And if you want to think that's okay, you're going to be in dire straits when the eggs hit the fan. You can play this back and go, read the verses I just put up there. So, let me think. I think that's what I'm going to cover. What next? Well, eventually Russia and NATO are likely going to go to war, right? And probably North and South Korea are going to go to war, and China and Taiwan are going to go to war, and Israel's going to be attacking Iran, so there's going to be more war in the Middle East, but it'll be probably in favor of Israel. The rebels in Syria may be getting preserved by America and Israel to get rid of Iraq, or even attack Iran after that. I don't know. But Jeremiah 49 has a lot of prophecies about these things. Yemen gets destroyed, Jordan, which is Ammon and Moab. Saudi gets hit. Iran gets destroyed. It's Elam in the Bible. Look at Syria. Syria's a mess right now. The rebels are talking about attacking Israel, and if they're that psychotic, they might. They're talking about attacking Iraq. They're talking about attacking Iran. I think they'll try that first. Well, all things work to good for those who love the Lord. So don't get yourself discouraged. There's a big exodus coming. Read Ezekiel chapter 20, starting in verse 33 to the end, and you'll read about it. Come to Israel. Only the true believers are going to come, and the lost tribes and the Israelites. I mean, you got a whole journey ahead of you to see what your Bible really tells you. It's a whole journey. I could help you through it with my YouTube videos, which are in the live section. So that's what I got. So I'm Moshe, so please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Pray Pray for our animals and pets, which are rescues, to be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for our finances. We need that. Pray for better videos, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out, and I do try to answer questions. Not bad. I got it under 2 hours today. I'm trying for 90 minutes, if I could get it down there. Pray I can. Okay, thanks. I'm out.